folks, welcome back to another Top 10 with yours truly, Sam Healey. I am finishing out my Top 10 Game Mechanisms series. So this started way back, well, at least it feels that way, when I did a Top 10 Game Mechanisms list. And then, based on some of the comments that I got from that list, I decided to do 10 lists with 10 games from each of those different mechanisms that I listed in my original Top 10 Game Mechanisms list. Well, this is my number 10 from that list, and that is hand management games. Now, I don't like just card games, generally speaking. Usually, I want to have a game to be a little bit more than just a card game. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy card games for what they are, but more often than not, if I'm sitting at a table and I want to play a game, it's going to be something that has a little bit more oomph to it. So, because of that caveat, naturally this list is going to be a list of games that are not just hand management games. They are games that incorporate hand management into them. Now, with that being said, I think that I have chosen some games that are very reliant upon that mechanism on, at least in my book, whether or not they're good. So with that having been said, I think it's time to go ahead and get to the list. And again, these are not empirically the 10 best hand management games that are out there. These are simply my favorite games that incorporate hand management into it and do so in a meaningful way. So, with all that being said, let's get to the list. Now, my number 10, after all that talk that I gave in the intro, is actually just a card game. And there are a few card games on this list, but my number 10 is a game called Bonanza. And Bonanza is where you are, you're a bean farmer and you're planting beans in these different kinds of fields. But this one, you really have to be careful with how you manage your hand because you actually have to keep all of the cards in order from how they're dealt to you. You can't switch them around and put them all together like you usually want to do with card games. And that's one of the things that I have to keep reminding people as I'm playing this game with them. Don't move the cards around in your hand. It's very important that they stay in the way that they were dealt to you. But I really do enjoy the hand management. It seeps into every aspect of this game. The trading, the when you're going to plant, if you're going to plant 1 or 2 on your turn, when you're going to try to make this other card part of a deal so that you can get it out of your hands so you can place the one that you want to so you can plant that one. There's just hand management throughout this game, and it's one of the first ones that I thought of when I was making this list. So my number 10 is Bonanza. Now my number 9 is not a card game, although it has cards in it. And this is actually a cooperative game, and it's probably one of the first really popular cooperative games out there, one of at least, and that is Pandemic. And I would actually probably want to squeeze Pandemic Legacy in here in place of Pandemic, but because that's my favorite way to play Pandemic, but I'm just going to let it stand and just generally say Pandemic. Being able to rightly use your cards in an efficient manner during this game is crucial to winning. So much so that it almost suffers a little bit too much from an alpha player problem. So you got to be careful. If you have a really alpha type personality playing the game, they're going to probably want to at least take over and tell people what they should be doing and how they should be doing it on their turn, because managing the cards that are in your hand, getting them to the right spots, using them at the right times is crucial to winning. So I really do think that it's a great game. I enjoy it. And you do have to guard against the alpha player problem where you're having one person just kind of quarterback everybody's turn. You don't want that to happen because then the game is really a drag at that point. But beyond that, hand management in Pandemic is key, and I can't say that enough, and I really do enjoy the game a lot, so it had to make my list. My number 9, Pandemic. Now, the game that I have in the number 8 spot is actually one that gets hammered by a lot of its critics because of the cards that are in it, because they feel like it's too constricting, it's too abstracted as far as that's concerned. You need to do something in this part of the battlefield, but you can't because you don't have cards for that battlefield, so you have to focus somewhere else. And this game is Memoir 44. Now, hand management in Memoir 44 is one of the things that I really enjoy about the game because it takes that the God of War, so to speak, this God's mode where you can just see everything that's happening and you can basically know what the other person is doing in situations that you probably wouldn't know. So I like the fact that the hand management in Memoir 44 is actually part of the strategic and tactical parts of the game, because you really would like to meet that person on that flank and bolster that flank, but you can't. So you have to kind of do what you have in front of you and work with what you have in front of you. And in some games, that's not fun. In Memoir 44, for me at least, that's really fun. It really gives me that flavor of being a battlefield commander, having to work with the resources that you're dealt, and making the best of it. And I really think the hand management in Memoir 44 for me is what makes it a really neat game. And that's why I wanted to include it on my list. Because you really do have to work with what you are using. You've got a really cool card that lets you mirror a card that the other person just played, and wow, they just played a really neat card, but that's really not going to help me very much right now. But it might be they might not play a better card later on. What do I do? It's those kinds of decisions that you have to make in the hand management in Memoir 44 that really make the song sing for me. So my number 8, Memoir 44. Now, my number 7 is a game that is not just a card game, and it is called Mission Red Planet. Now, the cool thing in the hand management here is that everybody has the same hand of cards, and how you use them, when you use them, feeding off of what you might think other people are using that turn is all about the hand management. And you can win or lose quite easily by having a good hand management idea in this game or kind of failing at hand management. And that's why I included it on the game. It's a great game. The second edition is a beautiful design game. They made some just few minor changes from the first edition, but those changes were really, really cool. The hand management has pretty much stayed the same throughout both editions, so there's no real difference there, but this is a great hand management game, and one of the ones that I really enjoy because of that. Everybody has the same cards, everybody has the same characters that they're going to be choosing from on the cards, and the special abilities that come with them, and it's just choosing the right time to use the card. And you might think, oh, I've got it nailed, and it's awesome, but something happens and it just doesn't work out for you. But you can recoup on the next turn and kind of make up for some of that lost ground. A great hand management game, in my opinion, Mission Red Planet. Now, my number 6 is a 2-player card game that has a board and some miniatures that you're going to be moving around on the board in order to carry out some of the actions that the cards are giving you. And that is Raptor. Now, with Raptor, one player takes on the role of a team of scientists that are trying to capture some baby velociraptors to do science on them, I guess. And the other player is taking on the role of the mama raptor, trying to protect her babies from the evil scientists and all that kind of stuff. You know how it is. The cards, though, go from 1 to 9, and you are the person who plays the highest number on each turn. You each choose one card and you place it face down. Whoever chooses the higher number just basically gets a number of actions equal to the difference between the lower card and the higher card. So if I play a 9 and somebody else plays a 5, I'm going to get 4 actions to carry out on the board with my miniatures and all that kind of stuff. The other person, the person who plays the lower number, gets a special power that he can carry out on that turn. And there's the difference. So the hand management comes in where you don't want to play a low card when you think your other person is going to play a high card, because then you're going to be giving them a whole bunch of actions on the board. They're probably going to win if you do that too often. But your superpowers are on the cards are really good, and so you want to use them sometimes. So you have to walk that tightrope of playing cards I mean, you're going to be giving actions, but you don't want to give too many actions. The hand management in this just is really a fun back and forth two-player head-to-head type thing, and I really enjoy it. So I had to make my list. My number 6, Raptor. Now my number 5, we're breaking into the top 5. So these are games where I think hand management is really, really key to winning the game and doing so in an efficient and well manner. My number 5 is another two-player. This one's just a card game, and it's called Hanami Koji. It's put out now here in America by Quick, Simple, Fun Games, QSF, and it was originally published abroad by Emperor S4. Now, this is a game where the hand management is excruciating, and the reason I say that is because you have a number of actions. You have 4 actions in front of you that you must carry out at some point throughout the round, but you have to choose the right time to use those actions, and the cards that you have in your hand are the things that you're going to be using for those actions. So choosing how to manage your hand at the right time, at the right moment, because you could be giving your opponent the cards that he's going to use to beat you with. And that's one of the cool things about this that I really do enjoy. If you lose, it is your fault. It is not anything like luck of the draw or anything like that. You simply made, more often than not at least, the wrong choice in managing your hand and the actions that you have to carry out during the course of the round. I really enjoy this game. The artwork is amazing, and the gameplay really rises to the higher echelon of a two-player game for me. So that is my number 5, Hanami Koji. So my number 4 is actually a miniatures game, but it's cards on the board and not miniatures. And you know, I really don't usually like games like that, but this one is such a cool mechanism, and it was one of the first ones to do it, at least in my opinion, to do it well, and that is Summoner Wars. Summoner Wars, you have your units in your hand, and knowing which ones to place down at the right time, how to use them, and so forth and so on is the key to winning the game. If you run out of cards, you're out of units. And so you have to really kind of manage your deck as well, because you don't want to run out before your opponent does. On top of that, it has a whole lot of spatial movement, attacking and defending and all that kind of stuff. So managing your hand in Summoner Wars is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the main ways to win the game, because you have to be efficient, but yet you also have to use your cards in such a way that will get your most powerful units onto the table as quickly as possible. If you fail at managing your hand correctly, you're probably going to lose unless you just get lucky. So that is my number 4, Summoner Wars. Now my number 3 is, I really enjoy the game, but I can see where this one might be a little bit of a stretch, because managing your hand in Battlestar Galactica is one of those things that is a subtle mechanism in the game. Your cards that you're going to have in your hand, they're going to be useful for a number of different things. You might want to use them during your turn to affect some kind of action on your turn and make sure that you win. You may want to use it on your turn in order to help somebody else do an action on theirs. So there's a couple of different reasons why, but because there's a traitor mechanism in the game, you might be very willing to use this card on somebody else's turn so that you don't have to play it in a vote that's going to be coming up here just around the corner. So managing your hand on both sides, whether you're so say we all, or you're a Cylon, you're a human or a Cylon, it really does matter whether, how rather, you use your cards, whether on your turn or in the votes. There's a number of different reasons why you should and should not use your cards at a number of different ways and times. So hand management, I think, in Battlestar Galactica is a crucial part of the game. Those who do it well will do well in winning. Those who don't probably will lose more often than not. So that is my number 3, Battlestar Galactica. Now my number 2, I really didn't try to say this game too often because I wanted to show as many different games as possible. That kind of crumbled on this list, I understand that. But my number 2 is Blood Rage. Now, you might be saying, really? Blood Rage? Hand management? Oh yes, Blood Rage is a hand management game. Now, there's a whole lot else going on, but the cards that you draft, if you're not, first of all, very specific about what you're drafting during the draft, your hand management really won't matter. But if you pay attention, draft the right cards, and then are efficient at pulling those cards and managing your hand while they're in your hand, that is, to me, how you win the game. Now, I don't always win, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I try stuff and it just doesn't work out. Sometimes other people are drafting just as well, if not better than I am. And so they're not only getting cards that they need, they're keeping me from getting the cards that I need. So there's a huge reliance on the card drafting. But once those cards come into your hand, there is another huge reliance on managing them, being able to use your rage efficiently to get those cards onto the table, and then getting cards that are usable and combo well off of each other. These are all things that I think hand management plays a part of. So I don't think I'm shoehorning it in. I mean, I guess it's my favorite game, so I feel like I am, but I really don't think I am at the same time, because hand management plays a key role in whether or not you do well in Blood Rage. So that's my number 2, Blood Rage. And so finally, my number 1 is a 2-player game, really. It is expandable to 4 players. Not expandable, but it can be played by 4 players. But in my opinion, it is really a 2-player game where one person takes on the role of the Rebel Alliance and the other person takes on the role of the Imperial forces. And we're talking about Star Wars Rebellion. Now, on both sides of the table here, hand management is absolutely pertinent to doing well in the game. If you wait too long to play a mission out of your hand, or if you have, maybe you've actually played it down and you're planning to do that mission on your turn, and if you wait too long, you will absolutely regret it. So managing your hand, managing the missions that are in your hand, managing the objective cards on the Rebellion side, managing the project cards on the Imperial side, all of this is hand management, and you have to do well at it in order to do well at the game. Relying upon the mission, the action cards, and the different space action and the ground action, and rolling the dice well, that's not going to cut it more often than not. You have to do well in hand management to do well in Star Wars Rebellion. And that's why it made my number 1. I think out of all of these games, this one's probably the biggest game, in my opinion, that has such a reliance on such a small mechanism and just simply managing your hand properly. So that's my number 1, Star Wars Rebellion. And so that is it, my top 10 hand management games. And that's it for the series. We're done with my top 10 mechanisms, so I'm going to have to think up something else to go for later on. But I hope you've enjoyed this series. I hope that I've at least turned your eyes, or maybe shown some light on how at least some of these games have that hand management aspect to it that maybe you just didn't realize, or didn't think that, hey, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's a good pick. Or maybe I'm just off my rocker and you just completely disagree with me. That's fine. Either way, let me know in the comments. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.